Vols, I mean, listen, I didn't think they were going to be better than they were last year.
No.
But I did have high hopes for what they could be in the SEC, second in the East, that type of thing. But losing to Florida the way they did, just coming out flat, that's just it didn't look right. And they have to get a run game going. That O-line has to step up because defensively I think they're better than they have been. But that was just a horrible loss.
Yeah.
Horrible loss.
Yeah, like you said, I think they just came out flat. Like, they're clearly they're a talented team.
Yeah.
Like, Josh Heupel and the staff have done a good job of building it, but they were not ready. Florida was clearly more prepared. They were clearly more ready. They were clearly more hyped up. Tennessee struggled tackling. Tennessee struggled. I think they had 6 pre-snap penalties in the game.
Yep. They had 5 false starts.
Yeah. For a veteran laden offensive line, I know they're without Cooper Mays, all SEC center. But they still are so veteran-laden up front, and they fell apart.
They missed Darnell. I'll say that, too.
Of course.
But there's 2 things you need for a Josh Heupel offense to be working at peak efficiency. That's a solid run game, which they didn't have in that game at all. You gotta get those guys more involved, Jalen Wright and Jabari Small. Now, the other thing you need is to be able to work on tempo and to have a little bit of rhythm to your offense. And all those pre-snap penalties threw them off. They squandered away opportunities because of those pre-snap penalties.
Right.
So I just don't know if they're not there yet.
Yeah, they're not
where they should be. And let me ask you, Joe Milton, I think he's fine. I think he's gotten better. He can take the smaller plays. He doesn't have to take the top off the defense every time, which is a noticeable improvement, but he's just not Hendon Hooker.
No,
when it comes to spreading the ball around
just
and the intermediate and the short, and he like the it factor, if you will, it's just not quite there.
Yeah, and I think that's the big difference between Hendon and Joe. Like, Hendon just had it in those moments. Like, Alabama last year was clearly the perfect example. It just continued to step up every time, and we just haven't seen that from Joe Milton yet. And he's pretty long in the tooth in his career. Like, he's been he's a fifth year guy. So he's been around the block, and he still just doesn't have that, like, if the team needs a play, he can go make it at any moment. Now, the arm talent is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, even in that game, the throw to Brew McCoy,
of course,
was just a money shot.
He's always had good. I mean, it's never been a question.
But yeah, I just don't see it with him as far as being like an elite level quarterback. Like you said, he's serviceable. He's cleaned some things up. His touch is a little bit better. His accuracy is a little bit better. But still, like in those big moments, it just doesn't. It looks like the moment is too big for him currently. Mm. And yes, he's a fifth-year senior, but he's played a very limited amount of football. I think he started 6 games at Michigan, and he started, I think this was his 5th start at Tennessee. So in his 5-year career, he started 11 collegiate games.
If it trends down, you throw Nico in there, or do you just wait?
I think it depends on how bad it goes and how confident that they feel in Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could happen, but I think it would have to go very south.
Yeah.
Like, I think he would have to have a terrible performance against, like, a Missouri or South Carolina for it to get there.
As much as I'm not a huge fan of Joe Milton, Bama would love to have him right now.
Hey, before y'all move to Bama, I want to ask you, what are y'all's thoughts about the Josh Heupel end of the game timeout?
Oh, that was stupid. That was so dumb. That team was ready to go fight, and then Josh Heupel wants to take timeouts, and he was feeding into it. And then now you have, 4 suspensions, 3 from Florida, 1 from Tennessee. Yeah. That was foolish. I'm glad you brought that up, Kenny, because that pissed me off at the end of that game. You have guys squaring up. Why are you calling a timeout? Game's over. Let's get the hell out of here. Yeah. We know there's a back-and-forth rivalry aspect to that game. Hell no. Yeah. I was mad at Josh Heupel for him letting that go on.
Yeah, agreed.